Thank you to be here. We have a wonderful guest today. It was a surprise until 2 weeks ago. We have today Chris Froome, who's just amazing. Just before the start of the Tour de France, we have someone who win 4 times the Tour de France, 1 time the Giro, and 2 times the Vuelta. Then thank you to be here, Chris. It's really a great pleasure. You know, when we have a meeting with Rick Verbrugge 3 years ago, maybe we can have opportunity to work with your team. And when my boss realized, he said, oh my God, if we can imagine to have Chris Froome wearing Ekoï, it's just incredible. And it's happened now. You wear our helmets, our glasses, and our clothes since now 3 years.
No, it was a really cool story, and yeah, definitely a pleasure to be working with a brand like Ekoï.
Thank you. You like to wear the helmets, the glasses, and
very much so. Very much so.
Good. When we say to everyone you're going to be our guest, we receive so many questions, but really many. Then if you want to start with Fabrice, he would like to know why you decide to cycling. What was the thing that would make you say, I would like to cycling?
So I grew up in Nairobi in Kenya, and at that time I just spent all my time on a bike. It was never about competition or anything, but it was my way to discover the world around me. And as a young kid growing up in Africa, I had the most amazing childhood. I was able to experience so much just with my bike from the age of 6-7 years old, just going and exploring and meeting my friends or meeting locals, seeing animals. It was the bike that allowed me to be able to do that and gave me that freedom from a young age. So I think for me, the bike always has been just such a big part of my life from such a young age, and I only really turned to the competitive side of cycling much later, at the age of maybe 16, 17, while I was still at school. But it was those early days, it was really just about the joy of being on the bike and the freedom.
Practice the bike. It was not something to do. You was not someone who look at television. You have, Eddie Merckx, or no one.
I knew no one. It was really, I'd never seen the Tour de France. I don't think it was even on TV in Kenya at that time. It was only when, really at the age of maybe 16, 17, I saw the Tour de France for the first time when I was at school in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And cycling is a bigger, or road cycling is a bigger sport in South Africa. So they used to show the Tour de France, and I remember watching the Tour, and during that time were the years of Lance Armstrong and Ivan Basso fighting in the mountains, and I just thought, wow, this looks incredible. And I was hooked. I wanted to learn more about the sport and how to train, how to get better, what competitions I could take part in, and from there, I guess the passion just evolved.
Okay. Then Fabrice, you have your answer. And now we go away with Graham. Can you share one memory from your early days on the bike that shaped who you are today? Okay, but you just answered. Sorry, Graham. Manu, looking back, what's the biggest lesson cycling has to you?
I think so much of the sport and so much of the public perception on the outside is about winning, trying to win the race and the victory and that side. But I think one thing cycling has taught me is how to deal with setbacks, failures, when things don't go your way. Because in the sport of cycling, there's only so much you can control. You can control your training, you can control what you do in the race. But there are so many factors that come from the outside that affect the overall results of the day. There can be crashes, there can be so many different things that happen during the day that can throw you off course. Mechanical issues, sicknesses that interrupt your training. So I really feel as if the my journey in cycling has taught me more about dealing with setbacks and dealing with failure, not necessarily to see it as a failure, but more as a learning opportunity to do something even better the next time. And I think that's one really important aspect of that you learn as a professional cyclist, because it's very, very rare that everything will go exactly as planned and you will be able to win every race you do. It's just not the reality. So I think it's a huge part of the sport to be able to learn how to deal with the setbacks.
Okay. And now it's a question that everyone would like to know, how it was possible to come back after this crash to the Dauphiné. It's Edgar would like to know, because you have also a strong mind to come back.
I mean, I've never reached the same level that I was before the crash. I mean, that's clear. I never came back to being able to fight for another Tour de France victory. But for me, just coming back to professional competition, that was already a huge step and a huge box ticked for me, in the sense that I could have walked away from the sport. I could have said, you know what, I've won the Tour, I've won the Vuelta, I've won the Giro. I can finish my professional career happily and walk away. But that's not the way I wanted it to end my career. And I think I would have always been questioning for the rest of my life what would have happened if I came back and tried to compete. And now that I'm here, I'm racing again, I really obviously forced myself to do all the rehabilitation, the re-education from my injuries that I had, and to such an extent because I knew I had to come back to race. I think if I didn't have that pressure to come back to race, I'd probably still be walking a bit badly at the moment, maybe with a bit of a limp or something. So I think it really accelerated my recovery, knowing that I had to come back to race. And I think I'm really glad that I did, because I know now for the rest of my life I'm not going to be asking myself the question, what if you tried to come back or not?
You are an example for many persons, you know.
I appreciate that.
No,
Thank you.
but it's true. And also on your team, when we talk with your manager, they say you show really the good example to the cycling men now. It's nice for the team you are inside.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
No, it's true. You answered already. You see an evolution on the cycling, and what do you think is going to be in 10 years? Emily would like to know that, because you see the beginning now and what's happened in 10 years, because the evolution from everywhere are coming.
The sport really is evolving fast, and I think it's especially I see a huge change in the last 5 years, especially from when I had my accident through the COVID period, and now I think the sport has really started to change a lot. I think the access to data is one of the biggest contributors to this change. I think now we're seeing a much younger peloton, much less experienced peloton.
Yes.
Riders potentially finishing their careers a little bit earlier and starting earlier as well. I don't think I can ever remember a World Tour team signing a 16-year-old, for example.
Yes.
Like I just heard Ineos have signed a 16-year-old. I mean, it's just unheard of. But I think the access to data means that from a much younger age, you probably have kids 11, 12 years old now, starting to train in a really structured way, like us professionals do. And not even just the training, but the nutrition as well, the eating, counting the calories, the carbohydrate intake, just really keeping track of everything. And I think that it's really become so much more data-driven from a much younger age, and that's why we're seeing the average age of the peloton is really getting younger and younger. And I can imagine only in the next 10 years going forwards that this data side of the sport will become even more important. I think we'll have more data on more as technologies evolve, I think we'll have more data on body temperature during competition, exactly more around nutrition, what the body is consuming, because now you're counting basically how much your body is taking in, how much you're eating, but how much of that gets absorbed, how much actually gets turned into energy. I mean, I'm sure these are all things we'll see in the next 10 years that just continue to evolve and make the sport even faster and faster.
Maybe it becomes dangerous, you know, also for...
I mean, we've seen the average speeds that we're racing going faster. And maybe at some point the sport needs to ask itself a question of, in terms of safety for the athletes, maybe there need to be some kind of limitations put in place to keep the speed from going too high, because we are seeing even just the gears that we're using when we're racing, it's becoming standard now for a normal race to use a 50-56 chainring. 10 years ago, the only time you'd see a 56 was for a time trial on the time trial bike. Now you're seeing it just in a normal road race, which indicates the speed already is going much higher. So, and of course there's a safety aspect linked to that. So I don't know what the answer is and what measures the UCI need to bring in the future to potentially limit how the sport is evolving, but maybe that's going to be also in the next 10 years.
And that's my own question, but last week we have the opportunity to meet Bernard Hinault, and he says they are less experienced now in the races because they make so much stage. It starts to be difficult. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I think there is less experience in racing, and with everything being more measured, more calculated, we're seeing it certainly seems to be more controlled in the races. The days that we used to see, for example, a breakaway in the Tour de France with riders who are not in the general classification, and you just let it have 10 minutes, for example, and then the teams would come and start working for the final, and we just don't see that anymore. Now the riders take 1.5, 2 minutes, and behind they're already starting to ride quite fast, and they don't want to give it more than 2 minutes now. So it's definitely changing in that sense.
It's also a big difference. And now I have Henri who would like to know if you have a food guilty pleasure. And if you have one, because I'm not sure, because you are so serious, everybody tell me, what's the one? Do you have a food guilty pleasure?
Oof. I think I've definitely got a soft spot for white chocolate.
Okay.
It's probably one of the most terrible foods you can eat.
It's true. You should eat black one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You answer already. What's the one moment in your career that still stings a little? What's the one moment in your career that still stings?
I think the one moment in my career that I really felt I was ready for the Tour de France was in 2014, and I crashed out on stage 4, I think. I actually crashed the day before on stage 3 and broke my scaphoid in my wrist, and I had to abandon on stage 4, which was the cobble stage of the tour. But this tour, I felt I'd done all the preparation, all the training, and I felt like I was really ready to go and it would have been the second Tour de France to try and win. And I really felt I was ready, but obviously the crash put me out of the race before we even reached the mountains. So that was tough to deal with that. But that's
you come back 3 times after. Huh?
Exactly. That's part of the sport.
George has a really interesting question. What's the most difficult, physical pain on the bike, or the media pressure off the bike?
I think in my early days of my career, I really struggled a lot with the media. I felt the pressure. I really I was almost afraid of the media because of how easily things can be misinterpreted or twisted. But I think as I've got older, I think I've just stopped caring so much, to be honest. I know people are gonna write negative things about you, but when you see how many people you touch in a positive way, for me that's much more powerful than what any media or social media someone can say something negative about you. So I've learned to look for the positives instead.
You're right. It's the good way. It's the way to act.
Thanks.
Sophie would like to know who's your favorite cycling man in the world. If it's from the past, it's from now. Who's your favorite one?
Favorite? I mean, I have to say, one guy who I really respect now, in terms of what he's able to achieve, has to be Pogačar. I mean, I always understood what it took to compete in the Grand Tours, the Tour de France, the Giro, the Vuelta. And I always understood my limitations because of the training for the Grand Tours. I always understood I would never be good in a one-day race. I could never really try and win a classic like Liège-Bastogne-Liège or
you focus on the Grand Tour,
the World Championships or something like this. But to see what Poggi is doing at the moment is really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. I could have never imagined doing something similar.
Okay. Pogačar is the favorite of a lot of people. That is really good. What do you think about the new Factor bike? That's a question from Frédéric.
The new bike from Factor is amazing. I mean, I think it's turning a lot of heads in the peloton. I think a lot of people are taking note of Factor as a bike brand, not just producing the fastest bikes in the peloton. I mean, I think they've been independently tested as the most aerodynamic, fastest bikes in the peloton, but just challenging the way that bikes look. I mean, we just have to look at the new bike that was launched now with the really wide forks, for example, that you normally only see on a track bike or a time trial bike. But seeing it on the road and seeing my teammate winning on this bike at the Dauphiné just a few weeks ago was a huge pleasure. It was really, really cool to see.
Okay. Amelia has a question. If you were UCI president for one day, would you captain budgets?
That would be fun, to be UCI president for one day.
Maybe it can happen, you know.
Maybe it would be fun, maybe it would be hell. But capping team budgets, I don't think I would, no. I don't think I would cap team budgets, because I think that limits the growth of the sport. And I think cycling needs all the help it can get. I think it's a sport where it's hard enough to come by sponsors, hard enough to come by budgets. And if you start limiting that, I think it's just making the whole, it's putting a limit on how teams can develop.
Okay, thank you. Samuel would like to know, race radios or not race radios?
I've definitely changed my view about this over the last 10 years. Really? I would be a big fan of taking away the team radios.
Ah, good. Why? Explain.
I think so much now, especially with a much younger peloton at the moment, I feel as if there's much less experience, and there's not really experience doesn't seem to count for so much when you've got all the information coming from the cars behind you, because you've got someone in the car who's got the experience and he's passing that information to the guys racing. Mm-hmm. And I believe that riders, are really not having to think so much in the race anymore. And I think it's part of being a complete rider. You really have to be able to read the race,
to feel the race.
Feel the race. Yes. When is the right moment to move, and just feel the racing. And I feel that side of the sport is starting to get lost now. So I think taking away race radios, it would definitely have an effect on safety. So maybe we have to think about some way that the radios could still play a safety part of the sport, but not necessarily influence the tactics and the decision making in the race.
Okay, thank you. If you could change one UCI rule or tradition, what would it be? From Lucas.
I think one thing that, again, towards rider safety that could help improve safety, especially around the finishes of some of the more flat stages that are going to end in a sprint, because that seems to be one of the most typical areas where we see a lot of crashes, is in the last few kilometers of the sprint stages, because you've got everyone's trying to be in the front, the GC riders, the guys helping the GC riders, the sprinters, the domestiques helping the sprinters. Mm-hmm. So it's just chaos. And I think if there's currently a 3 kilometer rule where once you pass the last 3 kilometers, if there's any crash or incident, everyone gets the same time as the bunch, as the peloton. But I think that rule could be relaxed even further, maybe make it 5 kilometers. And even don't give time splits within that last 5 kilometers for the GC guys.
Okay.
Just to make it less chaotic.
That's a good idea.
Less chaotic, less stressful for that group in the final, because it seems to be where a lot of the injuries and nasty crashes are taking place.
I hope the UCI listen to us, listen to you. Now we have a question from Chloe. She would like to know, is there a part of the cycling you'd love to help change or improve for future generations?
Yeah, I think the sport of cycling is very much dominated by Europe. It's very much seen as a higher class European sport, very much a white sport. I mean, yes, we do have athletes of color within the sport. Ambassadors, riders like Bingham Girmay, who have done extremely well. But I would love to see the sport become even more international in the future. So to help promote the sport of cycling in places where cycling hasn't been a tradition in the past. Potentially Africa, for example. I think there's huge potential there. I think there's huge potential in Africa. I mean, we just have to look at the marathon runners to know what the endurance sport capability is from Africa, but that hasn't transferred yet to the Tour de France. And I believe in the future we could see many more Africans, Asians, even South America has already grown very rapidly as a cycling nation. But I think it would be good for the sport to become even more international.
Is it your goal after your career to help the cycling for the international?
I think having grown up in East Africa, I think it would be a very natural fit for me to look at how I can help to improve things, especially in East Africa, in terms of giving more access to young athletes who want to get into the sport of cycling.
Okay. Another question from Chloe. She would like to know if your career will be different without Sky.
I think it would have certainly been different without Sky. If I would have won as much as I was able to win, that's a good question. Another question, because I think Sky really supported me in the way that allowed me to perform and really put the team around me. But it's a very good question. If I'd gone to another team, for example, would I have had the same kind of support? Maybe I could have built another support structure to help me to achieve similar results. But Sky certainly was a fantastic home for me at that time.
Good, great. If you want to give an advice to a young rider who starts cycling, what would it be?
I think now, with everything becoming so structured and so calculated, I would say to any young rider starting on the competitive side of cycling now, try to have at least one session per week where you're not going out and training, looking at your power meter and doing exactly what the coach says, but try to have one session per week where you
totally free,
just enjoy riding your bike. Maybe you sprint for the town signs with a friend, or do something that gives you some fun, because at the end of the day, that's what cycling is. Such a big part of cycling is you need to have that enjoyment. And I think if we get too serious too quickly, you can reach your mid-20s and you start to lose that passion. So try and keep at least one session a week, one session every 10 days, where you just go out and have fun on your bike.
But you think they are allowed to do it now?
It's a good question. I mean, everything is becoming a lot more structured, yes. But I still think that's you're going to be a better bike rider if you still have that passion.
Yes, I understand. I totally agree. Olivia, I would like to know, how do you want to be remembered in the world of cycling?
Well, hopefully, I mean, the results speak for themselves, but I would like to be remembered, I guess, as someone who just loved the sport, and has a never give up attitude.
Okay, thank you. Beyond cycling, what other challenges or goals excite you right now? It's a question from Charlotte.
Something completely off topic, away from cycling. I'm busy learning Chinese. I've always been really interested in languages, Mandarin.
Can you say something in Chinese? Because now we have a lot of clients in China.
你好，我是 Chris Froome.
I'm sure you say your name.
很高兴认识你. Just, yeah.
Oh, great.
I mean, small things I'm started learning, but I just, yeah, I've always been fascinated by languages, and I think Mandarin's definitely one of the harder languages to learn in the world. So especially for someone from Europe. So.
But you speak many languages, I'm sure. You talk French, I know.
Speak a few languages, yeah.
Tell me all the languages you talk. It's interesting.
So English, French. My first team was Bala World, the Italian team. So I lived in Italy for a few years. I learned to speak Italian.
Spanish.
Spanish. I can understand and I can converse in Spanish, but I wouldn't say I can speak it fluently like French or Italian. And then, having grown up in Kenya, Swahili was the local language in Kenya, which I learned to speak from a younger age. And then when I went to school in South Africa, I learned Afrikaans, which is
oh my God. Then it's 7. I stopped at 7.
I wouldn't say I can speak that nearly as well as the other languages.
It's incredible. Wow. To finish with a question of Benjamin, we see an incredible, huge evolution with material. What do you think is true? The 5 last year, it's a big difference. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree. I think things really have evolved a lot, especially in the last 5 years. Everything's becoming faster, but I also think it's really important what kind of relationship we as professionals have with are sponsors, because I think there are some brands that you work with that they just give you the material and that's it. You don't really have that kind of a collaboration or relationship with, to be able to give feedback and to be able to guide the future development of products. But for us, for example, having Ekoï as partners, there's a lot of feedback. Basically, any products that we receive, we're asked, what do you think about this? Should it be changed? Does this need to be made more aerodynamic or lighter? And I think it's that relationship that really drives the development of the faster products that we're seeing used in the peloton today.
But it's because of your feedback we can be better, huh? And hopefully we have your feedback, because you are the one who use it and you know better than no one else. If we have to change something to feel you more comfortable or others. Then thank you a lot. Can you say your planning for tomorrow? Because apparently you need to take your airplane right
so
now.
So I'm going to be flying in a couple hours time over to Romania for the Sibiu tour, which is just 4 days of racing. So not very long. But looking forward to that.
But good luck and thank you again. It was just amazing for us. Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks for the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and I see you next month with Patrick Lefebvre. Bye-bye.